Hello, everybody. It is John Pollock and Wai Ting following WWE's Crown Jewel. One word to describe Crown Jewel, Wai. Okay, that's fine.
Sure. Yeah.
Can I tell you how you watch a WWE Premium Live event? You take your requisite breaks between matches, okay? I got so much done during this show. I had lunch between matches. I cleaned my kitchen in between. I went out. Like, there's no way I'm sitting down and watching one of these start to finish. By 2 hours into this pay-per-view, we had seen 3 matches. I'm sorry, the pacing. This one, WWE shows are always slow paced. This was another level for this premium live event / tourism ad that I had for 3.5 hours. This was a very heavy messaging pay-per-view as it would be.
It is. Yeah. I think they're actually great for me because like it's not the nonstop pace of like having to catch up on my notes all the time. I can actually take my time after a match to compile my thoughts, and I can go to the bathroom. I can grab a coffee. I can live partially my life. Throughout the workday.
I can live.
Unlike in addition of Dynamite, which is just nonstop, and I always feel like I'm like treading water. Trying to keep up with like what's going on while compiling my thoughts, about what had just happened. This is just it's not unlike a UFC pay-per-view, John, where there's a lot of downtime in between. But I don't really like stop partway through. Like I'll watch later. Like I'll delay my viewing so that I can create a buffer. I'll catch up, and then once I'm caught up, I'm like off, maybe doing a little bit of something else, and then I'm just catching up on the buffer again. So it's a much more relaxed pace for a recapper and a reviewer. But for a live viewer, like this is something you put on the background with a Sudoku, in your hand that you're trying to solve throughout the afternoon.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I started late. I went and got a flu shot. That's how that was less painful. Yeah. Met the most interesting person at the pharmacy. I'm wearing this Detroit Tigers shirt that I bought when we were in Detroit. She's like, "Oh, you a big Detroit Tigers fan?" Like, not in the least. I bought this shirt because I needed a extra shirt while I was in Detroit. It's like, "Oh, my dad tried out for the Detroit Tigers. He was the last cut one year before it didn't quite make the team." I'm like, wow, that's really random for someone here in downtown Toronto at a pharmacy that your dad nearly made the Detroit Tigers.
It's a very interesting trivia note, I suppose, but it's also the type of thing you'll never be able to fact check. So, I mean, he could just be a pathological liar, getting his
let's get the gender right.
Right.
Well, I didn't want to question the credibility of someone that was about to jab my arm full of a flu shot, so I'll take her word for it. But we have lots to discuss today with Crown Jewel. Want to start off a little bit, and some in-house notes is that tonight, more shows coming your way for members at postwrestlingcafe.com, the place to be on the World Wide Web. Tonight, we will have Karen Peterson and Bruce Lord reviewing Power Struggle, which will go through some of the news coming out of that show, and they will have a thorough rundown and review of the card, plus Collision Course with John Cena and Kate from Montreal, as they will be chatting about the show from Wichita, Kansas. All points covered tonight. Yeah. Osaka, Saudi Arabia, and Wichita, Kansas.
That maybe 3 of the most popular places in the world. Yes,
that's right. All right. New Japan today held their Power Struggle card. I have seen a portion of the show. I saw the John Moxley, Great O'Khan impromptu Falls Count Anywhere match, and they had a terrific brawl, and John Moxley bled in the match and was covered in blood. You wouldn't believe it. And then I saw the Never 6-Man title match, which was, I thought, amazing. If you want to watch, this is the perfect role for Hiroshi Tanahashi in 2023. He did everything perfect. He was like, his timing is still impeccable, and him and Okada, like Ishii too here, but like the tandem of Okada and Tanahashi together was fantastic. They have Zack to work off of. This was just such an entertaining 6-man match that I would highly recommend. But afterwards, they retain the 6-man tag titles, and the roar from this crowd when Tanahashi got the victory was tremendous. And Okada's in the ring, and a video plays, and there is one-eyed Bryan Danielson out in the woods, noting that he is 2-0 against Okada, but in both those matches, you have broken my bones. I tapped you out with a broken arm because you can't break my heart nor my spirit. And I challenge you on January 4th at Wrestle Kingdom to gain revenge, and I'm going to break your arm, Okada. I'm going to break your right arm so you can never deliver the Rainmaker again. I'm not out to take away your voice. I'm out to take away your arm. And the crowd starts chanting yes. And Okada responds, stating, I broke your arm, I broke your face, but I've never beaten you. So go ahead and try to break my arm. And he accepts the challenge by pointing up and saying, yes. Obviously,
Lovely.
they're very confident that Danielson will be good to go by January the 4th. And Power Struggle is the show where you start to shoot all your big angles. Like, this is their sort of Royal Rumble event where all the pictures come into clearer focus for January 4th, and this is clearly going to be one of the big matches. And we'll get to some of the other announcements for Wrestle Kingdom. But yes, we will get the second singles match between the two.
They must have been very confident that that Danielson's going to be able to recover by that point. Even like maybe before he had his surgery, when he had that tag team match, and they were doing so much teasing within even the body of the match leading to Okada versus Danielson. So, I mean, this is only, I think, a good thing for all wrestling fans, isn't it? If it means he has to step out of, in-ring action for the next 2 months so that he could do the big match that I think we all want to see, Wrestle Kingdom against Okada, then so be it. So hopefully this means that the prognosis is really good for him.
So if he is ready to go for January 4th, do you expect him to wrestle on that World's End pay-per-view at the end of December? We're talking just days before the Tokyo Dome, and Danielson would be someone you want on that pay-per-view if you're AEW, and that is going to be his priority.
If he does wrestle, the most I can imagine might be some sort of tag team setting. Just maybe given his unfortunate luck over the past year with his in-ring appearances, I can imagine they would want to take some certain
First
precautions.
time ever, Danielson and Darby Allin.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be the day to
Someone's
do a match
world
like
will
that.
end on December 30th.
Goodness. Well, listen, I mean, he had those matches with Starks, and it's not like he got injured doing any of those matches. He got injured doing a collar and elbow tie-up, so anything can happen, right?
These have been freak things. I mean, they're not so much. I mean, there was no preventive measure for, just an elbow off the top rope or like, a lockup gone awry. Like, you can look at certain things, and these were just, I don't see how preventable these things are.
Yeah.
And then the main event, it was Will Ospreay and Shota Umino. And this was, I mean, in some ways, it was kind of like the story of Roman Reigns and LA Knight. Like, here is the challenger against the dominant champion that needs to come out and have the match of his life. And that's pretty much what Shota Umino did, a 40-minute match that these two had. And first of all, the commentary was very strong with this. This is Walker Stewart, Chris Charlton, and they had Robbie Eagles on commentary for the whole show. And they had a good dynamic. I think Chris Charlton is certainly assuming more of a quarterback role, I would say, in this new collection. But anyway, the match was phenomenal. And afterwards, it's Ospreay who gets the win, and he bows down to Umino. It's like he gets the big endorsement from the guy that had, called him out at the press conference. And this was his Sting moment with Ric Flair. He doesn't win the title, but man, he took Will Ospreay to the limit. And I mean, they did some incredible stuff in this match that I will defer details to Karen and Bruce, but it was just an unbelievable match. And then Jon Moxley comes out to rally Shota Umino, not to quit, not to give up. He's getting the crowd behind him, and Umino rises to the occasion. And after the loss, Moxley gets into the ring. He goes face to face with Will, and you're thinking this is the showdown when David Finlay attacks both men, and he takes out this gigantic sledgehammer. I mean, this is Hunters on, to the extreme, and he demolishes the US and the UK championships and completely demolition these titles. And it's going to be a 3-way at the Tokyo Dome. Will Ospreay issued the challenge afterwards for a new championship to replace these two old championships.
Have we run out of countries to name this championship after? What possible name could they choose?
Well,
The
it's
All Pacific Championship. We haven't had that.
Osprey said, if we're not going to bring back the Intercontinental title, then let's go with a new championship that I will take to new heights. And it's like, well, if we're replacing like two continents, I don't know what else to do. The hemispheric title of some sort. So
The
anyway,
Earth is running out of space.
it is like the oceans are very underrepresented
Mhm.
in this industry, so maybe that is one way where they can go. So the lineup now for Wrestle Kingdom looks to be Sonata and Naito, Osprey, Finlay, and Moxley in a three-way for this yet to be named championship. Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada. Hiromu Takahashi retained the junior heavyweight title, and he has now challenged El Desperado, so that should be phenomenal. And then it was Catch 2-2 winning the Super Junior Tag League. They'll challenge Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. So we have 5 matches official for January 4th at the Tokyo Dome. And then the World Tag League starts up in about a week or so, and that should set up the tag title program.
You know, three-ways are very unusual in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't even remember the last time they might have had an actual three-way match, maybe in Japan. But
they did the one with Omega, Cody, and Kota Ibushi.
Mhm.
They're very rare, yes.
But I mean, something like this maybe would directly call to attention the fact that Osprey will likely be leaving. And John Moxley is not a New Japan Pro wrestler, so having simply Osprey versus Moxley really does the promotion no good following January the 4th. And so having David Finlay presumably winning it and becoming your new champion ensures that you have somebody retaining that value afterwards.
Yeah, and depending on what Osprey decides upon, I mean, his deal's up in February, so you could have the deal where Osprey loses without being pinned, and then you do Finlay and Osprey at New Beginning, and that's the farewell to Will Osprey, puts over David Finlay on the way out, and that could be one option.
Sure.
So there you go. Of what I saw, Power Struggle looked like a great show, but man, it was like I turned it on this morning. It was like 5.5 hours. I mean, it was like an 11-match show. So check out Bruce and Karen for a full rundown of that card as we go into Crown Jewel, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And let's just talk over just in terms of this being the show where, I mean, listen, this was a big commercial for Saudi Arabia. Did you feel this was in line with a lot of the WWE shows? Or was this more than usual? Like we see they're introducing this WWE experience. Like they are putting roots in Saudi Arabia now with like a full-time exhibit that's going to be there in Riyadh as well.
I feel like, you know, ever since the Khashoggi murder and them completely taking a step back from really kind of any mention of even the name Saudi Arabia on their programming, they are slowly dipping their feet. Now it's, you know, maybe like we're up to the ankles, and then now we're up to like, you know, we're pretty much like chest deep into, you know, like Saudi Arabia territory now. We're not all the way there. You know, that first like WWE Saudi Arabia show was still probably the most, I would say, blatant, you know, promotion of just, hey, come to Saudi Arabia. Look at all the incredible advances we have, you know, with like women can drive now. This was, though, I would say maybe
having the Iranian xenophobic angle on the Greatest Royal Rumble.
My God.
You know, little things like, you know, just to...
That was straight like, you know, like you're deep in the ocean, okay, if we're using the same analogy. But this was like probably the furthest we've gone since then in the form of this what they are essentially kind of billing as like an ad for an airline. Which just
how
so
far
happens
they have come from the concerns about them flying home from Saudi Arabia to now trumpeting the airline of choice for Saudi Arabia.
This is, I mean, it's the government-controlled airline, Saudia, and it's essentially it's a veiled sort of like, you know, commercial for what a great place this is. You know, like come and visit. You had, for people who did not see it, 4 WWE superstars basically represented in this ad in Drew McIntyre, Bianca Belair, Bayley, and LA Knight.
And then they all spoke in sync with one another, like the tagline at the end, and it was something right out of They Live, where they were just like,
right,
fly Saudia.
But yeah, I mean, I think part of this is just again a way of continuing to further deliver the intended message that this whole thing was supposed to send out, and it's to promote tourism towards Saudi Arabia, or at least the image that this is a place that is modern and that people can come and visit, and it's things are so great and they're incredibly fun here. You know?
Yeah, as long as you don't tweet, like you'll have a great time here.
Yeah. hmm So, yeah, I would say this was like the most we got up until this point, and I imagine it'll only get more and more until
I think
another.
there's been a real breakthrough at this point when it comes to like the public acceptance. Like you're just seeing like we've spoken about it for years, like the certain level of I think fatigue among wrestling fans, but this is growing so beyond just like wrestling that this is not only sort of accepted, it's encouraged. Like there is just such a wealth of capital that is being dispersed across sport and entertainment that it is becoming just like there are these outlets that like they are craving these contracts with Saudi Arabia, and it is going to make for an entire boxing career out of Francis Ngannou. Like that is just a small, a small drop in the
Football,
bucket.
soccer, Cristiano Ronaldo, I mean, was all over the Tonight Show, at least in mention, right? Um, it's it sort of is, yeah, becoming like an accepted form, or at least like I don't know, an accepted element in all the media that we might consume, whether it be sports or entertainment or otherwise. Um, Now, I'm curious to know, like, if this sport washing is actually is it yes, it is normalizing, I think that maybe the discussion of, like, Saudi Arabia as being a place of, I don't know, like, that has a lot of money that could pay for this stuff. Will it go as far as to encourage tourism to, a place like Riyadh for somebody who, I don't know, typically would never think about it? I wonder. I'm not sure. Like, maybe eventually it'll get to that point, but I wonder how much of this they need to expose us to in order for
I
people to
think
feel
that's
that way.
also I think that's more so a byproduct of just the presentation to the world that this is a place to go to. It's not so much necessary that we need to have Americans traveling to these shows, but
Mhm,
abroad, I mean, there's plenty of like, people in the Middle East that this is the place to come to for the biggest events in the world. And just promoting that fact to people and having as much sort of silence around the other like human rights abuses and people
mhm.
being placed to death over tweets to their 8 followers. There's that aspect that I think for those that are so in tune with this message, it's just very easy to just shrug your shoulders at all the other stuff that they don't need to concern themselves with the politics and why so much is necessary to be able to spend to get this message out.
So certainly, it's it's telling the world that, hey, Saudi Arabia is on the map. You should be discussing Saudi Arabia when it comes to, I guess, talking about like the global powers. But does that added attention to at least some circles, like put more of a spotlight on those human offenses, and does it make them? You would think, mm, do they have to be more covert about it, or is it something that they have to be more accountable for with this increased attention?
You would think that the increase of one does shine more of a light on the other. I certainly believe that, sunlight is the best disinfectant, but just seeing this in real time way, I don't see a whole lot of focus on the it sort of just comes part and parcel with like vague references to, well, their human rights record is not that stellar, but look at all of this stuff they're doing. It's like there's no easy answer for a lot of people to this. And um I think it gets very complicated when you want to speak about this and you are casting a discussion about the Saudi Arabian government, and it becomes very easy to just extrapolate that to your like attacking the people of Saudi Arabia, which is not the case. And I think that's where it just gets muddled. And let's be honest, like these are realities that I don't think many people want to engulf themselves in. I think it becomes very
Mhm.
easy to just look at the positive and ignore um, ignore what is sort of underneath the rock that you don't
Especially
have.
when you're collecting a paycheck.
It's very easy to ignore that stuff and make justifications for yourself and look at what has happened from a John Cena who was not doing these shows to a Kevin Owens that was not doing these shows. And the fact is, like, for someone who is a homosexual to go to one of these shows, I mean, a very different experience for it. Like, how would you feel safety wise going to Saudi Arabia as someone that has, you know, spoken about these issues and such? Would you feel completely safe? I can't answer that completely.
Yeah, I don't see myself, you know, ever being put in that situation. But I sure, yeah, it would maybe give me pause, you know, just given track record of how they might speak, or anyway. So, it's a topic that continues to be brought up twice a year whenever we cover these shows, right?
Well, let's go through the show. The kickoff had Sami Zayn and JD McDonagh, noting this is the rubber match.
Is
Remember
it
those
really?
two classics? Yeah. Raw in August and September. They were one apiece. News to me. This crowd was insane for Sami Zayn. They were lively for a lot of people, but then there were some lulls later, which we'll talk about. But Sami Zayn, man, they were red hot for him. He was, I would say, as popular as anyone on the card.
I would say so. You know, he had the benefit of being the first person this crowd got to see, but he was also the last person this crowd got to see last time. You know, really, I would say the sort of de facto home territory babyface that they were promoting him as last time came out here in his robe and just, you know, soaked up this incredible ovation from this crowd that was very hot for any, I would say, wrestling content, I'm sure, but especially for somebody like him.
Yeah, they mentioned that Shawn Michaels has put over JD McDonagh as this phenomenal talent, and then almost as though it was telepathy, JD takes a turnbuckle and he does the crazy Shawn Hulk Hogan spot where he flips off the turnbuckle, just ridiculous, like your Shawn Michaels Kurt Hennig bump out of the corner. I was like, wow, the timing of this comment, and then the ridiculous bump off the turnbuckle.
I would suggest that, like, JD probably had no ill intent with this, maybe what came across as a bit of an oversell, unlike maybe Shawn in that Hogan match. But like, I give JD actually a lot of credit. He's been bumping his ass off for everybody that he's been involved with in this run so far.
Well, including this match. I don't know what the spot was, but he got this insane, like, abrasion above his hip on the side. This thing is going to look, it already looked horrible. It's going to look that much worse tomorrow. Man, I'm sure we'll see this on Monday on Raw because of the after effects of it. But dude, it looked awful. Like, I don't know if he just went into the rope badly. I don't know what this was. I didn't see the cause and I didn't rewind to go see where he got this, but dude, this looked awful.
Cameras were certainly, like, trying to pay attention to it.
They were zooming in on it, and but they had no replay. I don't think they had a cause of what led to this, but
hopefully it's more of a superficial, like, I don't know, rug burn or something than something worse than that. Burn. Yeah, really.
Real simple match. They reacted to everything Sami did, and JD just bumped around for him. It ended with an exploder, haluva kick, and blue thunder bomb in 9:47. Kickoff style of match that just got the crowd amped, and no need to do any kind of angle or overbooking for this.
Exactly. Like, I would almost say, like, house show level match, you know, nothing fancy at all about it. Nothing needed to be fancy about it. Just a way to, you know, set this crowd off pretty happy, give you some Sami Zayn content. Crowd was definitely with Sami for every momentum shift. And, you know, it does make you wonder if they had initially maybe more planned for Sami for this show, or if in the future they would use Sami more in a bigger position. I almost wonder if they would consider doing the Sami Roman rematch, which, you know, is going to happen at some point. I wonder if they would consider Saudi Arabia for one of those.
It's possible. Like, that's a destination to do it, whether it be Roman or Seth Rollins. I mean, we mentioned, like, Montreal being the obvious, but I mean, they've got a lot more invested in Saudi Arabia than they do in Montreal.
And this is, you know, very much like becoming a home territory for him as well. So, yeah.
Imagine Dragons kick us into the main show, and Michael Cole calling this the hottest ticket in the world. Not the Eras Tour. No, it's Crown Jewel in Riyadh. Hottest ticket in the world.
Ngannou Fury is over, I suppose. So this is it.
That's it. Michael Cole and Wade Barrett are on commentary, and then
Byron Saxton was the announcer.
That's right. Yeah,
It
we
was
didn't have
unusual.
Samantha Irvin nor Mike Rome.
Yeah, that's unusual.
I don't know. Maybe it was just a numbers game of who they were bringing over.
I thought he did a pretty good job though tonight.
Fine. Yeah, it was. He announced well. He pronunciated all the names correctly, so that's a win.
Oh, hey man, I couldn't do it.
Do you remember when Lillian Garcia first started in WWE? This was like around 1999, and she's like, "This match is scheduled for like." She did it like boxing, like for X amount of rounds or something. Like she was really off with just her verbiage and stuff. Like she just didn't know like it sounds like she was just given a mic and said, "Go out there and you're our announcer now." And then she became very, very good at it. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, the world's longest video package. I think this thing went on for like 6 minutes. It was incredibly long. So we have a red hot crowd at the beginning, and Drew does the Cristiano Ronaldo goal celebration pose. So thankfully we had Michael Cole and Wade Barrett to explain to us who Ronaldo is and that he plays football in Saudi Arabia.
Well, I didn't know that, John. You know, like
you didn't.
I didn't know that he played in Saudi Arabia. I don't know anything.
This guy's getting $213 million a year to play in Saudi Arabia.
You know how small my world is, John?
This guy was at the boxing fight last weekend,
which I did not watch. Okay, I'm sorry, but like my world is comprised of maybe 90% professional wrestling, and then I should say 60% professional wrestling, 40% like baby stuff. So I don't have time to know where Cristiano Ronaldo is playing.
So Drew hits a belly to belly on the floor to start the attack on the near incapacitated spinal column of Seth Rollins. We also get the note that Rhea Ripley has tweeted, "Good luck, boys," regarding her campaigning to both about the assistance of the Judgment Day, which neither took her up on. So Drew runs his shoulder into the turnbuckle, and this became the story of the back versus the shoulder. And to really emphasize the back injury for Seth Rollins, he hits a springboard swanton, leaps to his feet, and follows with a cabrata off the opposite side. And Wade Barrett says, Seth is showing no ill effects despite those back issues. And Michael Cole says, I was talking to Seth today. He says that once he loosens up and the adrenaline gets going, the back usually isn't that bad unless it's directly targeted with an attack. So here we are. A month ago, he was on the verge of one bad hit and the whole thing could come to a crashing halt, his career. And now he's just got to loosen up. He's just got to get that adrenaline going. And
I suppose they finally came up with the cover for why throughout all these years, like it's not something that's been visually, affecting him as much as see the difference maker is when somebody targets it. Okay. And this is
what Drew was doing here. And then this guy's doing swantons.
Well, listen, man's got to get his shit in. Okay.
Well, he goes for the buckle bomb. And unfortunately, he didn't loosen up here because the back gives out and he eats a future shock DDT for a 2 count. Drew then drives him onto the edge of the apron with a slam. In the ring, there's a reversal to a pedigree. Drew recovers, calls for the Claymore, but is stopped by a super kick, kicks out of a stomp, and then Rollins misses the Phoenix Splash into a Claymore. And this was an awesome near fall as Drew got on top. Massive reaction for the kick out. And then he tries for another, is stopped with the super kick. And Drew misses another Claymore, and it's a pedigree stomp. Both men are down, and it's a delayed cover, but Seth just rolls over and gets the pin. 18 minutes and 22 seconds as Seth Rollins retains. And I mean, they went out here to have like your main event level style of match. And I will get ahead of myself a little here and say this was the superior championship match of the two on this card.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. We might have a debate later.
I think it depends what you're looking for in your championship matches. Okay. Like certainly in terms of from an in-ring standpoint, yeah, I would give the edge to this one. And that was to be expected. I think even going in, if maybe sort of like the grandeur of atmosphere and of Roman Reigns level main event is more to your liking, you would probably go with a main event. But nonetheless, this was a very good match. I thought it was very well paced, very well built. And I thought like Seth's lower back selling, like once they got into it, was very good here. I thought it was just enough to kind of draw you into the drama. I don't think he overdid it at any point and gave you some nice finish, sort of near falls once the finishers came in. I thought we would get a bit more like concrete, sort of like Drew McIntyre's like sort of devolving into madness throughout this, but they're choosing to keep this like a very slow burn. So nothing really definitive.
With a hint afterwards backstage with Rhea, like the idea that this guy, he he took the harder path towards the title, and had he taken Rhea up on her offer, maybe he would have been champion. I kind of like going this direction where they're going with Drew. It continues to be like you can continue to run this story, and it doesn't necessitate having to go back to a title match instantly with Survivor Series in 3 weeks. So Damian Priest runs down with the briefcase, but there's a man in disguise, and it's Sami Zayn, who attacks Priest and steals the briefcase, runs through the crowd as Priest chases after him. And this is Sami Zayn's new mission, is to take out the Judgment Day one by one. And he started with JD McDonagh and nearly tore his torso off, and now grabbing Damian Priest's briefcase, which Sami Zayn has possession of.
Yeah, so I mean, Priest can't cash in, right? If you don't have possession of the briefcase, that's how.
Do you think he should have photocopied the contract when he switched briefcases?
Would that be legally binding? He should have scanned it, and he should have had an e-signature, I think, from all the appropriate people involved. Yeah, so Zayn versus Priest seems to be our next program, and as a way to continue to delay this, like Money in the Bank briefcase cash in from Priest to keep him busy, sure, makes sense.
So if Tony Khan broke into Vince McMahon's office, could he run these Saudi Arabia shows twice a year?
Well, Zayn can't cash in and get a title shot himself. He's just preventing somebody from.
But WWE can't come back to Saudi Arabia until they get possession of that contract.
Well, the Saudi deal is not. The contract's already signed, and I'm sure they have scans. Unlike Damian Priest of this Money in the Bank briefcase contract, they don't have to hand it in every time they want to put on a show. That
we know of. I mean, maybe it's like you have credits.
You're right.
You cash these in for your 50 million payout after the end of each show. We go backstage, and Rhea Ripley just shrugs her shoulders at Drew, and Drew is left looking frustrated and upset. Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark for the Women's Championship. And Wade Barrett says that last weekend, the Battle of the Baddest, it was only the appetizer. This is the main course. So if this is the main course, and Tyson Fury got 50 million, what was Rhea guaranteed for this title defense? 100?
The
payouts had to be. This is the main course,
right? I don't know. What do you think?
I know that WWE wrestlers, I'm sure, are being paid at the same level of high level boxers.
Yeah.
So we had the 5 all and later the other women's title match with the outfits. Who won the outfits?
I think Rhea.
Rhea?
Okay. Rhea looked really cool. Like I mean, I'm not exactly sure if there was something specific she was going for, but she had a different makeup job that was kind of reminiscent of a crow type of thing. Black pleather, she was able to rock it really well.
They've come a long way from the oversized t-shirts.
Yes, they have.
Baszler was in a judo pants, and we start off, and it's a 4-on-1 against Jax as they assist Baszler getting a German suplex. And then, it was just a lot of kind of the big monsters going at one another. And Raquel delivers a pounce to Zoe Stark. Baszler does this triple submission on Ripley, Raquel, and Jax. Jax being in the Kirifuda clutch, and Zoe gets to break it up. And Jax twice tried for the Annihilator and did the Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10, where she slips and falls. No reference to her hole though.
This seems to be a different direction they're taking.
Yeah, they've evolved the character. Z360 onto Ripley, but then we just get a procession of saves. Baszler launched everyone with a Tower of Doom, and then there's a headbutt to Stark on the buckle. And so we have Baszler on the mat, and Raquel was a little late here to go for the cover because Rhea was all set to do this riptide off the turnbuckle, but she had to wait for Raquel to get on top of Baszler for the cover. So then Raquel gets hit by the riptide by Rhea off the second turnbuckle, taking out all of the women, and it's Rhea there to just pick the bones and pin Baszler in 11:05, as Michael Cole notes that she bucked the odds with a 20% chance of winning this match, because that's how these matches work, everyone. That's last weekend, despite the odds, Francis Ngannou had a 50% chance to win the match because he was one of 2 people in this fight, and that's how odds work.
Pretty much.
One of my pet peeves that still exists to this day. Michael Cole loves this stat.
I thought they had planned a pretty like fast match with a lot of sequences and almost no lulls in action. And I thought overall that execution was fine in the match. No like blemishes that I think ever derailed, this match at all. But it was never the attention grabbing match that was enough to, I think, spark this crowd into caring. And this was like, I would say, the first of all the matches tonight that received pretty low reaction from otherwise, this crowd that was clearly here to see like stars, and not just stars
Yes.
alone, but like stars involved in meaningful matches. Rhea Ripley certainly is a star, but everybody else she was here with was not, and it calls into question their idea of doing this sort of five-way rather than maybe putting all the airtime and focus on building up one individual for this match. By the end, seeing this result, I would say like it was pretty unsuccessful because I can't really say anybody coming out of this feels like that much of a bigger star. The gulf between Rhea Ripley and everybody else just still seems so far.
Well, it was noticeable that the person absent from the closing sequence was Nia Jax. Like, she was not part of the whole Riptide spot at the end. But I have to say that is the least appealing match for Rhea Ripley of these four. That I feel they are going to have to do it at some point, but I don't know. That feels like a TV match to me at best.
Oh, I don't know how appealing any of the others feel, John. Like again, from an in-ring standpoint, you might get a better match out of, I don't know, Shayna versus Rhea or something like that, Zoe versus Rhea, but their characters are just like nothing right now. There's very little attention, I would say, that's been put onto them. No real motivation or actual storyline. That can all change. Just like it could change with Nia Jax.
Then we had the ad for Saudia, the official airline of Saudi Arabia. So great. And then an ad for the Survivor Series promoting War Games. Solo Sikoa, John Cena. Thunderous reaction for John Cena. There's no Paul Heyman out for this match. And John Cena's game plan is to work the thumb and the hand of Solo Sikoa. This was the debut of Zack Sabre Cena. And dude, he's bending the wrist and weakening this thumb to take away its effectiveness. Guess what? John Cena did not do a great job of weakening this thumb by the end, did he?
Well, he's not really known for his submissions now, is he? So
yeah,
it's a big thumb.
So listen, John Cena got an amazing reaction coming out, but this was so slow. It was heavily reliant on how invested you were in John Cena ending his losing streak or Solo Sikoa being able to get a major win in his career. But dude, if you had told me this match was going 16 minutes, I would have told you that is way too long for these two. And I think I was proven right here. Michael Cole starts to ask us, what if this is the last time we ever see John Cena in a WWE ring? Yeah, maybe this is it. Crown Jewel, the last time we see him in the ring. And Wade says, all good things must come to an end. But Cena constantly is avoiding the Samoan spike. And then he would go to counters. He'd try for the AA. Then he gets him in the STF. And then it was like wash and repeat again. Like we did the same counter and application of the submission later in the match. He builds up, does his comeback with the 5-knuckle shuffle, but another AA is countered. He takes a series of hip attacks, and John Cena hits a high cross, dubbed pulling out all the stops from Michael Cole before John Cena turns into the next evolution. Everybody, we get the 6th move of doom, a choke slam from John Cena.
It looked to be more of a Uranagi to me, but sure,
kind of. It was like, in watching it, he didn't really wrap the arm around the neck, but whatever this was, the visual of him hitting a choke slam on Solo Sikoa was a little off. So the AA gets countered, spinning Solo. Cena kicks out, blocks another spike, and then gets out of the STF is Sikoa, and Cena then runs into the Samoan spike, and Sikoa just promptly hits him with a second one, a third one, a fourth one, and then he just goes to town. He's just hitting him with like a million shots to the throat before Cena stays down in 16 minutes and 11 seconds. So I get the idea was like this was this unbelievable beating that Cena has taken. I think just doing like 2 or 3 of these Samoan spikes would have been so much more effective than like 15 of them by the end of this whole thing. And Cena did get up and he like walked out on his own at the end of this. So I don't know if that part was really accomplished, but this did feel like the end of Cena's run.
I mean, I kind of disagree, John. I think throughout this entire story, So a lot of us were criticizing when they gave away the first Samoan spike after that excellent promo from Cena, the great promo from Paul Heyman, and then they just gave it away to us. Now, seeing SmackDown last night, I've come to realize that that was a great decision because they got to show us what one Samoan spike is able to do to John Cena's throat. You know, when he was like selling it with the raspy voice. So now that it effectively conveyed a unit of measurement of what one Samoan spike can do.
100 of them.
Well, sure, like whatever. Like that was the intended effect, right? We were asking, well, what is the difference between this Samoan spike in this match versus all the other Samoan spikes that, you know, Solo Sikoa has delivered throughout his history? And the difference is he's going to do a lot of them, okay? Specifically, you know, targeting the throat. And so I thought it was necessary for him to pile them on to show that this is going to be different from all the other Samoan spikes. And again, they gave us a unit of measurement on SmackDown to show that one Samoan spike is able to do this much damage to the man's throat. Well, 15 of them is going to take him out for good, as they promised. So I thought that was actually effective.
But he wasn't taken out here. Like he got up, he walked
his
to the
throat
back.
His throat was taken out. That was the purpose. It was not to knock him out. You know, it's to cut off his connection with the audience through his voice.
Next time we see John Cena, he's not going to talk.
So that should be the story. Absolutely. I mean, I mentioned it last week. The after effects of this loss are going to be, I think, the most important part of it, because the man can't just come back next week and cut a promo, even with a raspy voice. Like he should sign language. Okay. He should do American Sign Language to say goodbye, or just simply come in, drop the microphone.
Sign language with subtitles.
He should speak Chinese. Maybe he could still do that. Anyway,
I don't know if that's how your voice box works, where you lose one language but you inherit another.
This was a Samoan spike specifically targeting his ability to speak English. Yeah.
I like the booking overall of Solo as the monster coming out of this. That was the positive. I thought this match was way too long.
I think you know what you're going to get with the John Cena match. Now, my expectations were coming off of the Austin Theory match, and this was way more than the Austin Theory match. This was Cena.
I'll give you that.
This was Cena that actually looked motivated. And I think, you know, looking at the result here and looking at how much he was willing to take from Solo in this finish, showed that he was like, he believes in this guy and he wrestled like he actually cared this time around. It helps that I guess he doesn't have a movie set to go back to, at least not in the immediate, but like was actually pulling out like different maneuvers, did not phone in his performance, I thought, tonight. So I thought it was like a satisfying match.
I would have done the stretcher job at the end or something. Like he needs medical assistance for his throat. Like if we're doing this measurement deal and he's taking these.
Why would you need a stretcher for your throat?
Because he's just been hit with 16 of these things.
Yeah, but it's
we saw what the effect one has.
It's targeting your throat. His legs are fine.
How about I drive an object into your throat 16 times and then you tell me what medical attention would help?
I wonder if it would be
across as like this destructive beatdown that is like career threatening for John Cena.
But again, the story was always about targeting the throat. I mean,
if your throat is damaged, you do need help with that. Like you can't just like shake it off.
I mean, what are we even arguing here? You know, I thought they effectively conveyed the damage to the throat. But anyway, a lot of it will be in the follow-up.
The crowd applauds Cena as he remains in the ring, and he shakes his head and walks to the back. Then on this super long show, we had time for MizTV as they brought out actor Ibrahim Hajjaj, who is introduced to us, the very famous actor in Saudi Arabia. But Michael Cole tells us, this dude is incredible. He's funny as hell, and he's the best actor in the Middle East. And Wade says, I was holding my sides yesterday like I was watching a Dave Chappelle show. Like this was the most manufactured commentary that no one would ever naturally say about, hey, tell me about that dude you were hanging out with Friday night. This dude's incredible. He's funny as hell. My sides were hurting like I was watching a Dave Chappelle show. Fuck. These two had like zero sincerity in their voice.
Why did they promote this on Raw or SmackDown this week? You know, a MizTV with Ibrahim Hajjaj.
Michael Cole. Ibrahim has his own film company, you know, Blacklight Films. He's the star of Sitar. I was like, can we possibly see the hand that is using you as a human puppet right now on screen?
Right.
So he's out, and he does get a good reaction here from the crowd. Grayson Waller interrupts. We don't want to have MizTV. We want to have a Grayson Waller effect, complete with the set design. And Miz says, I'm Ronaldo. You are the ball boy. And Ibrahim says, hey, I can be on both shows, but the hottest show is MizTV. And Grayson Waller is offended. He's like, dude, I got pulled from house shows to come do this. You better like the Grayson Waller effect more. So Miz ends up sending Waller into a Kamagiri from Ibrahim. And then a skull-crushing finale is delivered to Waller, but not before the dude that's incredible and funny as hell delivers a people's elbow that had my sides. I was holding my sides laughing watching this. I mean, as this guy got to just act out his childhood fantasy for all of us to watch.
I guess I mean, I don't know, the choice of people's elbow. I guess number one, it's an easy enough move to do for anybody to pull off. But secondly, it just seemed to me, it almost like tells me when somebody stopped watching wrestling. You know, like if this is your only reference, like I guess I mean, whatever. Pat
McAfee chugged a beer after this, but yeah, he made his decision.
I think notable about this is the fact that like Miz was positioned as the babyface in this segment, so it tells me like
he's kind of this babyface for this Gunther program.
Well, yeah, like the Gunther's interaction on Monday, like seemed to be his actual turn.
Yeah. Cole then promoted Riyadh season, in case you were not aware of what was going on, and then we see Logan Paul just randomly racing in the sand dunes in this like buggy, which he then drives into the city and right into the arena on.
I'm guessing this was Logan saying, hey, like I got a day off, I really want to ride a dune buggy, you want to bring a camera along? All right, whatever, we'll use it for your entrance.
And he drives right out. This is the point. The show starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. It was 2:50, and we have seen 3. This is match number 4 on the show as we are getting to. Like, that is how slow this first 2 hours was. And Rey Mysterio comes out. How interesting is it, Way, that we had the United States champion this weekend defending his title in Saudi Arabia, while the Intercontinental champion can't get out of the U.S. due to citizenship restrictions.
They might have to rename that title. They might have to swap titles.
They should swap.
Right.
They started off with like lucha sequences at the beginning here, and early on, like the chemistry was definitely there that these two had, and they're really pushing that Logan is a student of the game. How much so? He's got his Ultimate Warrior tapes as he does like the gorilla press and splash on top of Ray's back and is just doing the warrior pose, and then right into a bear hug. It's like of all the tape study. So there's a buckshot lariat that Logan goes for and plants his foot. And they note how tough it is to hit that move, and then goes for the titanium loaded right hand and misses with that. Ray applies a crossface and is working on Logan's shoulder. Ray goes for a cabrata. And this was the clip that everybody was circulating because Logan, it seemed like Logan was a step back and had to like step in quickly into position because Ray was going to come down with no one to hit, or thankfully Logan caught him because I don't know if he was going to continue to rotate here and might have come right down. It seemed like Ray was preparing for him to catch him, and Logan seemed to be a step out.
It looked really scary. It looked like he was like, going like torpedoing straight down. And
even when Logan caught him, like it was like he was low as well. Yeah. Like thankfully he was saved here by Logan, but it just seemed like this could have been a lot worse. And thankfully, okay. So we continue onwards, and Ray hits a code red that they say is borrowed from Zelina Vega. And then we get the return of Logan Paul's goof from his entourage. We haven't
never identified this guy. I still don't know who this dude is. They named
him. Yeah, I didn't go back and watch the Ricochet match because we were there, but he
was in the Ricochet match.
He was there to hand the brass knucks. Like this was a follow-up on to that. So he passes the brass knucks to Logan Paul, but then they land on the ground, and Santos Escobar comes and steps on the knucks and chases the errand boy away. And then Santos conveniently places them right on the apron, which are left there. Logan grabs them, and as Ray goes for a slingshot, he gets waffled with the titanium loaded right hand with brass knuckles, and Logan pins Rey Mysterio to win the U.S. title. And Michael Cole says that the complexion of WWE has been shook and that social media has been rocked to its core. as Logan holds up his 2 prime possessions, the Prime Energy drink and his U.S. title, and tells Ray that he won fair and square, as Ray's yelling, "You know what you did?"
Yeah. I thought this had all the makings of like a possibly show stealing match, or at least the type of match that a lot of us would be talking about afterwards. You had a great heel, a great baby face, mainstream star power in the form of Logan Paul, like the promise of like high flying athleticism. But I thought the match
this was grounded Logan Paul. Like, he didn't do any big stunts at all.
I thought the match ended up being pretty disappointing, and this was another match, to my surprise, where the crowd, I don't think they ever really got on board, and
they came down in the Cena match and they stayed down for a while. I would say until like the main event.
Agreed. I don't think the action ever lived up to like maybe our high expectations at this point, especially for like a Logan Paul Rey Mysterio pairing. It didn't deliver a lot of the flash that I think Logan Paul in his previous matches had. It was a fine standard WWE match, but disappointing considering the participants. So
I wonder how much he prepared for this one, given he just had the boxing fight 3 weeks ago. And I mean, even if he knew this was coming up, like how much he got to dedicate to preparing for this. Like, he looked fine. He didn't look like he was hurt or dealing with anything. But yeah, I thought this match, it was just a very basic, like, ground offensive based match for a Logan Paul that you've sort of set the standard now for him to do his big stunts in the match, and you're not going to get that every time out. And
the wow factor of Logan Paul simply being able to wrestle is not really there anymore. Like, him doing a leapfrog is not really all that impressive anymore.
No.
So we just have higher expectations, and Ray like sort of has like what he's able to do, which is still a lot. I just didn't even sense like so much creativity in this match to really kind of make what they could do, effective. And now you did have the Santos leaving the knuckles on the apron, so it should make way for a Ray versus Santos story, even without the U.S. Championship involved. And who do you see for Logan Paul coming out of this? Because I think Owens is probably like a no pun intended prime candidate, to face Logan Paul at this point. Anybody else that you could see?
KSI
for the U.S. Championship.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Owens is an option. Yeah, I don't see him sticking around with Waller in theory for much longer, and he sort of seems to be a guy without a program of substance. So, and also, when do we see Logan Paul next? Like, maybe the Rumble?
You don't think so? I guess Survivor Series. You don't think so?
Yeah, you're right. They could do something quick.
The fact that he has a championship and the fact that Roman is already a part-timer, like, maybe it makes me wonder that they might have him for a bit more of a commitment, especially I don't know if Cena will be back, after this. So they might be
you're right. You're right. They could get him on the Chicago show. Jackie Redmond interviewed Bianca Belair, and that takes us to IYO SKY Bianca for the women's title. And this was another one. I thought it struggled with the crowd, but I thought they had a really good match together. Another lengthy match, 16 and a half minutes. And we saw Bianca selling her leg, and she's on the ground. And this was her Seth Rollins tribute. She shakes her leg to get the feeling going so that she can do her kip up. And the announcers don't know how smart that was. Got to get the kip up in, right?
Got to get your shit in. Come on.
Sky attacks the knee, stretch muffler. They do a tug of war with the braid. And then Bayley shows up, distracts Bianca, and Sky kind of seems annoyed that she has shown up here. Like, did she not see her on the flight over, or
clearly not?
What do you think Bayley came all the way over here for?
Bayley was flying Saudi, okay, as you saw from the commercial.
She just flew for the food. I mean, I'm not here for the show. I just want the flight.
She had a great time somehow from between like last night at 10 p.m. and all the way now. So
Sky hits a moonsault to Belair on the floor, and then Belair catches her with a glam slam, and Bayley's on the apron distracting the referee and is knocked off the apron. Belair goes after her. Sky then misses Belair, runs into her partner Bayley, and as the KOD attempt is attempted by Belair on the floor to Bayley, Kyrie makes her return, attacking Belair, comes off the barricade. She's got this like awesome zombie look to her as well. I thought this was like a really cool outfit she had with the makeup and the way her hair was done here. Sends Belair,
but almost kind of unrecognizable. Like, it's not like she was like the most.
She got no reaction when and it's not like she came from the back. She hopped the barricade, and like you even had like the announcers at the beginning, like, who is that? And proclaiming it, but it's not like this got some crazy pop either for her. And
no, you had to
probably
see it on
right. There's probably a lot of people that did not recognize her.
Right, and it's not like she was at the level of star that I think like everybody would know her really anyway, like at least her silhouette. But you also had the fact that she wasn't wearing what she usually wears because we're in Saudi Arabia.
It's probably
Um,
not until she did the elbow that a lot of people live would have put
mhm.
put it together. Although, like, you would have had people that did, but sends Belair into the post. She beats the count, but then is immediately hit with over the moonsault, and Belair gets pinned in 16:34. So, I mean, it was our second match in a row where we had like the interference leading to the finish. But I would say, like, overall, I like the match between these two as well. And I think the run-ins at the end, it was a satisfying return of somebody that people were expecting. And I thought that was a good way to reintroduce her. And they also noted the fact that when Kyrie left WWE, it was Bayley that destroyed her, and that was her exit angle was with
Mm.
Bayley, and they played it up that Bayley was kind of not aware that Kyrie was
Mm.
coming back. So it's this idea that IYO enlisted Kyrie without alerting Bayley. So it gives some much needed progression to this damage control infighting, which has been running in place for so many months that they did need this shot in the arm. And you have an interesting story coming out of this one.
Right, yeah. So you know, again, like with these sort of shows, and you're not getting any sort of definitive like this person's turning on this person. They're just kind of setting in motion further storytelling that you'll have to tune into the television for. So this was a move that I wasn't expecting. I mean, you know, Kairi Sane coming back with IYO SKY as a champion, I would expect her to be coming back as a baby face to basically face IYO as a heel. It I didn't really expect them to do sort of like the tag team type of story first. Almost like I wonder if there's an expectation, like because like what Sane attacked Belair, so Sane will be a heel along with IYO SKY and presumably like maybe a member of Damage Control. You
For
think?
now, I think you
Right.
try and get it's all like Bayley and Sane trying to coexist, but you know there's this underlying tension, and Io's got her existing issues with Bayley that should all come to a boil. And that's to take you until like January or so. I think that's fine that you can get some mileage out of this before everything implodes. And hopefully Dakota's like cleared to go so she can be active in this because she's got
She's
to
been on
be.
crutches for a while, you know.
Yeah, you would hope that she's soon going to be back up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
active.
The match itself, I agree. I thought these two worked really hard. You know, with the sound off, I think you might have like really enjoyed this match, but unfortunately, with the dead, quiet, apathetic crowd, I didn't think anything they
It did
did
hamper things.
came across well at all. Like this crowd just simply didn't care about the match nor the feud, and I don't know if the action was strong enough again to kind of like shock them into caring. So, it ended up feeling like this one went a little bit too long for me, simply because again, they never got the crowd throughout this. How long was this?
This was 16 and a half. This was our third straight match that went over 16, beginning
Mm.
with Cena. So like you did get some lengthy ones here.
But again,
Um,
like this show was a clear sort of indicator of who's a star, or at least who these crowds see as stars internationally, and who they don't. And unfortunately, neither Belair nor IYO felt like they were stars tonight.
Well, they did treat Cody Rhodes like a star because they did
Mhm.
come alive for Cody coming out, and they were into this one a lot. And I was kind of dismissive of this match, but it was like I wasn't really anticipating this one in terms of interest, but I knew it would be good, and it was very good for the time. 11 minutes was a perfect length for this one to just have a all out, let's go type of match. And what I love the most, they do this big attack angle on Cody with his ankle, and he's not selling it. And eventually Wade just says, Cody's ankle, he told us, is giving him minimal problems. That's pretty much it. Like, he's fine. We did this angle and didn't quite take. So the ankle's
It's the
fine.
adrenaline, John. You know, like
He's
like
loosened
nothing
up.
for
You
long.
know what I mean?
They
So
are at least trying to come up with excuses for why, after these big injury ankles, guys can end up still having some semblance of a wrestling match.
So we're teasing putting each guy through the desk. All the members of Judgment Day minus Rhea got involved here with Finn Balor coming out. Then he waved down Dominic. JD did a sneak attack on Cody when the ref's back was turned. And as Dominic is coming down with the chair, Jey Uso pops up out of nowhere, super kicking Balor and Dominic and chasing them to the back. JD is gone too. So we're left with Damian and Cody, and it's Cody with a bionic elbow, a pair of Cody cutters, including one off the top, and then ducking a lariat by Priest, and hits him with 3 consecutive crossroads. I think he could have hit him with like 16 more just to really make it that debilitating. And he beat Damian Priest in 11 minutes and 3 seconds. And fun match. I enjoyed this. Wasn't my match of the show, but I thought this totally like didn't drag. Crowd was lifted for this one because of Cody. And I also like the idea that the closing 2 matches, you had Cody and Roman Reigns winning big matches, and you're left as seeing this inevitable crossroads between these two in the near future, and that's just left in the back of your mind after the show of like this eventual collision course.
Right. Yeah, this was a match with almost like no stakes involved. I mean, I don't even
Not
think
even the
losing,
briefcase, yeah, because it's gone.
not the briefcase. I don't think losing this match would have really derailed Cody's story really by any sort of like major I don't know, amount. But it had star power in the form of Cody Rhodes, and that certainly meant more to this Riyadh crowd than any, mediocre like secondary title, at least.
So then in our ongoing knowledge about Saudi Arabia, we then had Michael Cole inform us of the Falcon being the national bird of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Stat I was not aware of. The Falcon.
Have they? Do you think they'll tell us? I guess about the national animals when they go to Australia.
They have to. They've set the precedent, haven't they? So
Right.
I look forward to these.
Maybe.
And then there was just shots of WWE talent all around the city doing the Make-A-Wish efforts and stuff, Special Olympics. And the Roman Reigns LA Knight match concludes tonight's presentation. Paul Heyman out with Roman Reigns, and Knight goes after him right away. Reigns is mocking Knight's mannerisms, and then Reigns just works on him for a long time, antagonizing the crowd, but tons of yeah chants as Knight fights back and gets caught with a rock bottom, kicks out of that. Knight's avoiding the Superman punch, and he just wants to hit that elbow drop. He's intercepted with a Superman punch, leaps to the top and superplexes Reigns to the mat, and then hits the elbow drop, only gets a 2 count. This is when Solo comes out, and then Jimmy Uso appears, dragging Reigns to the floor. So Knight goes after Jimmy, takes the Superman punch, and is speared in the ring for a big near fall spot. And the crowd's pretty hot here for LA Knight. Reigns calls him the flash in the pan, applies the guillotine, and then Knight breaks out on the rope, hits the blunt force trauma, and goes for the cover, but Jimmy gets the foot on the rope of Roman Reigns to save him. So Knight goes after Jimmy, rams his head into the desk as the crowd is chanting yeah with every bit of impact, followed by Reigns getting his head rammed into the desk, and then puts Jimmy through the desk. Into the ring he goes, and Reigns just spears him through the barricade, and then another spear in the ring. Roman wins in 20 minutes and 3 seconds.
I thought this was a very good Roman Reigns match, and maybe my most immediate comparison is like thinking about what ended up being a disappointing Jey Uso Roman Reigns match. And I felt the difference here was LA Knight's connection to the audience. While Knight, I think, is very limited as an in-ring performer compared to, say, maybe a Jey Uso or certainly a Sami and a Cody, he has more than enough tools to have a good WWE Roman Reigns style match. And I think the main ingredient that he has that a lot of people don't is that connection to the audience, just like a Cena, just like a Hogan. And when you have that, I mean, these Roman matches, even as slow paced as they are, somehow the slow pacing somehow enhances the matches in the right situations. And I thought this was one of those right situations where every little thing Roman was doing in between the moves, playing to the crowd, and just whenever he was in control, did a great job of basically setting up Knight's comeback, making what Knight could do look big and important. I thought they built up to a really nice near fall with the BFT, and gave us a pretty typical bloodline interference finish at this point. But it's also kind of their way of just protecting these baby faces in the losses. So coming out of it, you might still be able to justify an LA Knight rematch at some point. But I thought throughout this entire course of this month, LA Knight, he has proven that he's capable of being in this sort of main event mix, and show that he has an exceptional connection to the audience, both in the stateside and internationally.
The crowd helped this one. I thought it was a very basic match. That would have been my critique of it. And I think if I'm going to levy this against AEW with all like the distractions and run-ins, like this was 4 matches in a row where we had like interference leading to the finish. And I think you should prioritize like do we need 4 of these in a row? Like, if this is the main event and this is our angle to get there, maybe that takes priority, because that was a little cumbersome on this show. But I will say, I think that LA Knight came out of this like, I thought it was like a fine match. I didn't think it was disappointing. I didn't think it was one of the higher end Roman Reigns matches, but I think Knight certainly has a very safe spot, that he is a key babyface for the company moving forward, that a loss definitely doesn't hurt him here. And yeah, I think the audience certainly helped this one. It's and maybe that's what you're going to prioritize more. I'm definitely, I think, more critical on just like the bell to bell portion, but nonetheless, I think this was what was expected. Maybe even a little bit above, because I wasn't going into this one with grand expectations.
Somebody in the chat room suggested LA Knight possibly as Logan Paul's opponent for the US title, and I think he could face Owens first, maybe defend against Owens, but then losing it to LA Knight, in a big match where Knight finally wins a championship against somebody like a Logan Paul, I think would actually be perfect placement for both of them.
What was your match of the show?
Mine
was Rollins and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I mean, I even just have to kind of do a bit of a review right now, because like I would probably say Rollins McIntyre was very good. Women's match unfortunately didn't do much for me. Neither of them. I think like just simply due to grandeur and outcome, I really appreciated the outcome of the Cena match. They were really positioning this as Cena's retirement. Okay. So again, follow through and follow up is everything when it comes to something like that. But that moment felt like the biggest thing on the show, and like the biggest result on the show. The fact that Cena lost this match that he was supposed to win, and Solo Sikoa was the one to put him into retirement. Basically, it was Michael Cole's words. So I thought the result of that was good. The rest of it was kind of disappointing, mainly based off of like crowd reactions. I thought wrestling was about what you kind of expected, except for Logan Paul versus Mysterio, which I did expect a bit more for. But crowd was here to see stars, and they helped accentuate those matches. But the other matches I thought suffered.
This had all the spectacle and the big like pomp and circumstance of a big show. But I would say, like, I'm just like, forget comparisons to like other big shows, like, and like a Power Struggle today, like just on comparison with like WWE shows this year. I thought this was below your standard WWE show in terms of just match quality. I thought it was on the lower side, but let's open it up. We'll take a couple of calls before we wrap things up.
Hey, let's go to Muggin. Hey, Muggin, welcome.
So
You got Kairi Sane's return.
What do you so for our audio audience, care to explain what you're holding up?
just a comparison photo. See here, this is when Mayo Classic at the top, and this
Kairi
is
and EO years removed, reunited after all of these years.
Mayo Classic at the top, and right earlier today.
So you're a huge Kairi Sane fan, right, Muggin?
Well, listen, okay. Listen, okay. Ever since Triple H got the book, I figured it was her coming back was a possibility, and considering damage control's inception just a little over a year ago, I would have to think at some point Kairi Sane would come back to the Han Bailey, and guess what? Bailey found the one thing she can't control.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Kairi Sane.
That is right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I told you so.
Damage out of control.
Yeah. What did you think of the show overall, Muggin?
It was fine. It was fine. I mean, Rollins McIntyre to me was match of the night. I mean, it definitely pushed Drew even further, and they're really taking their time with him, with Drew, going heel, and that little skit with Rhea was another sign. What else? Logan Paul Rey Mysterio was very good, and the finish was clever because the finish was very clever. Santos came in to run off Logan's buddy, but he left the brass knucks in the ring for Logan to take advantage of. What do I have to you have to think that maybe it was done on purpose, because maybe that'll be the story coming out of it.
Well, of course it was. Well, sure, okay, yes.
And
maybe he was in a rush. I mean, haven't you ever left brass knuckles just laying around?
Yeah,
you don't know who's going to pick them up.
Yeah, and looking ahead. I mean, do you think Logan is going to hold that U.S. Championship all the way to Mania? Because I don't think that's realistic.
No, I could see him keeping it that long. I mean,
think it's
Mania's not that
possible.
far away, Muggin.
Yeah.
It's 5 months.
Yeah.
It's 5 months.
How many U.S.
How many
title
matches
defenses-
is he going to do from now until Mania? I guess that's the question.
That's what I'm trying to get at, because I mean he's only allowed to work a select number of dates, like not week to week. So I mean it feels like nobody's going to eat on his watch, and the same applies to Roman, because it looks like he's going to be skipping Survivor Series. He might, and I skipped the main event because it was just going to end up with the same formulaic ending: ref bump, run in, spear, pinfall.
You called it.
Same beats. It's like, I mean, as much as Roman Reigns is an attraction, and justifiably so, I mean, it feels like the bloom is starting to get off the rose. And I mean, LA Knight's going to be fine, knowing him, because he's still super over. And the way, I also love seeing those signs with the Arabic written beneath it. I thought it was very clever.
Yeah.
And, I think LA Knight's going to be fine. And I would like to think that maybe he takes the title off of Logan Paul, the U.S. title off of Logan Paul, probably in Tampa. I would say Tampa. At least get 2 months out of this, so Logan can plug it on his podcast and wherever he goes. And I think then you pull the trigger on LA Knight and become a U.S. champion in Tampa, the Royal Rumble. So overall, it's a solid show, easy to watch, and I'm glad it's not a glorified house show in a vacuum. It's like everything matters now, just like Night of Champions in May.
Thank you, Morgan. Appreciate the call.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Morgan.
War games.
Let's go up next to Brandon from New Jersey. Hey, Brandon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
What's up? You think Logan Paul was watching WCW Thunder for the brass knuckles for inspiration?
He might have been. Maybe he was going to take someone hostage before if he didn't get this title match. Ended in a tag match with his entourage buddy. Do you know who that is?
I have no idea.
Do you don't watch Logan Paul's?
Nah. I mean, just like you. I mean, you watch the Triggered with DTJ.
DTJ, is that what they call him?
I guess. I don't know, man.
You're the only person I know that might have listened to that whole interview. No.
No. I mean, DTJ has had a busy week being subpoenaed and whatnot. So I'm surprised he had time for that interview with Dana White and his. But Dana White loves to go on these interviews, controlled environments that no one presses the issue against him. I love it. It's hilarious. A couple things. I like Rhea Ripley's Pat Benatar look. She looks
Pat
tremendous.
Benatar.
Is that who she was referencing?
I don't know. That mullet definitely gave a Pat Benatar vibe to me. She's probably too young to know who Pat Benatar is, but I don't want to disrespect her music IQ or whatever. But I the vibe definitely. I got that vibe looking at her. She always looks tremendous. But the Kairi Sane thing, I'm glad she's back. She got some meat on the bone. I hope she gets some meat on the bone for storytelling and whatnot. I mean, rumors abound that there might be other friends that are coming, and I'm not talking about a TV show, but other people involved in this story. So hope it's
Like who? What are you hearing? Who are your sources?
Courtney Cox.
I mean, I don't want to rumor monger. Come on, this site doesn't rumor monger, but I mean, wouldn't surprise me if Mercedes Moné would appear. What do you think about that?
Interesting. I don't know. I don't think so. But is that the rumor? I don't really keep up. So
I don't know. I'm not a Fightful subscriber, so I couldn't tell you. And one more thing. I had a good bit I was gonna tell you, but then I forgot because my old age was kicking in. So what? I'll leave it at that. Love you guys. Great show.
Have a safe night, Brandon.
Oh, you know what? The night is young. I mean, daylight savings. Don't forget to turn your clocks back, by the way.
Oh, you're right. That's tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is,
I
man.
totally forgot about that.
And then Timmins, it's -2 right now. So bundle up out there.
You know what? I was just about to do a road trip to Timmins, and I'm going to opt against that now. So thank you.
Good night, guys.
thank you, Brandon.
There's only one.
The star of this week's edition of Rewind Away, talking about WCW Thunder from April the 26th, 2000, the night David Arquette won the WCW Championship. Maybe that'll be Logan Paul's next opponent.
All possible. Very much so. Let's do the feedback before we wrap up here. I got to jet in a couple of minutes, but we do have time for the written feedback here. We'll start off with Jay from Colorado. Wasn't a strong looking card on paper, except for a few matches, and that's exactly how the show played out. I enjoyed Paul and Mysterio, and I think they're going in a good direction with that belt. Even if I don't like Paul, I have to give him credit for what he's done, and I think he will do well with the belt. Enjoyed the main event. Tired of Roman's title run because it's been so predictable. We know he's going to make it to Mania with the belt, and we've sacrificed potential title angles and heat with Sami, Cody, Jey Uso, and now LA Knight. I'm worried the next champion will just be on a quest to beat his title run, as will the champion after that. Now that John Cena is the man we can't see and can't hear, who do you think takes away our ability to smell him? How many senses does he have left after?
Yeah, I mean, who's got a move that targets the nose, I suppose.
Orange Cassidy? I don't know. Yeah.
Does he?
The Orange Punch.
All right. Okay.
Let's move on.
All right, let's go up next to Brian from New Jersey, who says, the following opinions are my own and not of pro wrestling. This was the 10th WWE PLE as part of the deal with Saudi Arabia, bringing my streak of not watching these shows up to 9. I guess it's fitting the one-time pirate princess makes her big return in the country run by scum and villainy, a real-life madripoor with the Saudi government in Hightown. I hope the civilians of the country had a really fun time and that everyone gets home safe.
Okay, that's Brian's message. Last one here we have from Matthew. I'd be interested in hearing why people boycott these shows, but not shows in America or other countries when those governments are just as bad or worse in what they have done. Let me address this because this is always the kind of the equivalency people make. I think a major distinction here is that the WWE is not benefiting from the U.S. government spending X millions of dollars on an annual basis to use WWE to push ahead a certain message of such. There is always going to be a disconnect, I think, between citizens and their governments. I think that exists in Saudi Arabia. I think that exists in Canada. I think that exists in the United States as well. These shows would not have the same level of scrutiny if WWE was independently going to Saudi Arabia, nor would WWE be staging these level of shows if not for what they are being paid, that they are ridiculously budgeted shows that do not yield any kind of profitability. Like, these are done. Like, ask yourselves these basic questions. Why are they spending $50 million when they are not going to see any of that returned? This is not about making money on these shows. So look at the larger reasoning why all of these acts, these leagues, these sports are going to Saudi Arabia and commanding these incredible figures. Like, this is, I'm sorry, I'm not going to just bury my head in the sand on a lot of these issues. And does the U.S. government have a stellar, flawless track record? Hardly. Does the Canadian government have a stellar, spotless record? Hardly. But I think it's disingenuous to just state, hey, put your hands in the air and just accept all of this, because every government has its problems. There is not the same level of business correlation between the WWE and the US government as there is with the WWE and the Saudi Arabian government.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, it's just like one show is purchased as a form of propaganda. Whereas other shows typically taking place are being conducted just in the name of personal gain and capitalism. So that to me is a clear distinction right there.
I'm not tuning into Raw on Monday and getting the Biden administration's talking points or initiatives that are being hidden into characters' motivations or PSAs that are airing throughout the show. I am not getting, a false sense of, the country's objectives. Like, there is a distinction that I think anyone that can see this understands of what these shows are and why.
I don't know about that, John. I don't know if anybody watching this can tell the difference. Like, you get responses like this that I just don't know how many people are just care enough to kind of think about it as deep. So yeah.
Regardless, to Matthew, I appreciate all feedback to these shows. Regardless, we can all discuss these in civilized ways. So thank you everyone for your feedback, for the calls, and for tuning in. Again, Collision Course is live tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time with Kate from Montreal and John Cena. And then also tonight for patrons, you will be getting Karen Peterson and Bruce Lord reviewing Power Struggle. That show will be up in a couple of hours time. So look out for both of those. And then Sunday, it is MCU Later with WH Park and Rich Fan. And the next time you will hear from myself and Wai, it is Monday night after Raw.
I'm so sorry. I missed the super chat here earlier from Andy, who says, following Twitter exchanges, Ospreay versus Tyler Black, headlining All In, anyone? After those historical references, I'm surprised Cole didn't claim Paul was wearing black and yellow as an homage to Kawada. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's
tweeting back and forth. It's not the first time they've tweeted back and forth.
Yeah, Tyler Black is not leaving. Sorry, Seth Rollins, so... and could Ospreay go to the WWE? I mean, sure, it's possible, but I'm sure he's just having fun right now with the Twitter.
There you go. All right, thanks everyone for the super chats and everything else. We'll speak with you on Monday night, and that is it for our Crown Jewel review.